Well, welcome to the podcast, everyone. My name is Ryan Nadel, and I am the crew team leader in Central Wisconsin. And yeah, we're thrilled to be kicking off this really exciting adventure called the Real College Life podcast. And so I brought 3 friends over from campus today, and we're going to be talking about what it's like to go to your first crew weekly meeting. And so, yeah, why don't you guys introduce yourself, share your major, and some of the things maybe you like to do in your free time, whatever it is.
Cool. You want to start us off, Caden?
Yeah. I'm Caden Knorr. I'm a freshman majoring in conservation law enforcement. I really like to fish and hunt and just be outside. Love the outdoors.
My name's Lydia Carlson. I am a sophomore. I'm a business major. I love plants, volleyball, things like that.
My name is Emma Winter. I'm a sophomore. I'm studying elementary and early childhood education, and recently I've been really into hammocking.
Let's go. Hammocking is the best.
Yeah, we're addicted.
Yeah.
We love that hammocking.
I wanted to go last night, and it was like 55 degrees, and I'm like, I'm not doing that.
What's your hammock threshold?
What does that mean?
Like temperature-wise?
I'm saying like 40s.
Really?
Bring a blanket
Stop.
and I would sleep in a hammock easily.
No.
I've known people who've done it.
Yeah.
It needs to be 65 or above for me.
Okay.
We've definitely
I have
gone when
really
it's
bad-
colder, Lydia.
But it wasn't enjoyable. It's too windy. I'm like sitting there freezing the whole
Yeah.
time.
No, it's got it. There's a thing there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's supposed to be relaxing, right? So if you're,
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I
cold.
want to be at a good temp, so.
have you ever hammocked, Caden?
I have.
Yeah.
Want to get into it a little bit more for the Boundary Waters trips
right.
that I do. But
So like hardcore actual sleep in your hammock
yeah.
kind of hammocking. That's exciting. Well, I'm so grateful you guys are stopping by the downtown office today and hanging out in the podcast studio. Our first ever podcast, so this is pretty special.
I'm
Yay.
excited.
Yeah.
I'm honored. I'm honored.
Yeah. And, you know, really the point of this is that we're thinking that there are potentially incoming freshmen, new students to campus, either in Central Wisconsin, but really across the nation, who are going to be going to college this fall for the first time. And they're going to be walking into a college campus that's going to be full of activity, energy. You guys remember your first fall on campus.
Yeah.
Things are going to be happening. Every student organization on the planet, things that you didn't even know existed, are going to be trying to get you involved. And crew is no different. You kind of play the game in the beginning of the year. And along the way, you end up maybe taking that step of faith to actually go to a crew meeting. And, you know, I've never asked you guys these questions, so I have no clue what's going to come out of your mouth. This is happening in real time, in the real world. But I'll just maybe start off by sharing real briefly about my own experience. Like walking into crew for my first time, I was like, man, this is a really weird environment. This guy named Billy, he was on the football team. Him and I were on the football team together. He lived in my dorm. And he was like, hey, let's go check out this Christian group because you're Christian, right? And I must have told him about my faith. I wasn't really living loud at that point about my faith. And I was like, yeah, let's go. And I went. And I remember at that time we had this huge, and we did this actually for like 10 or 15 years after, but we had this huge bed sheet that we had like spray painted crew.
What?
And it just looked so like unprofessional. And like somebody made this in like 5 minutes in their like dingy, you know, college house basement. You know, and I don't know, it was just kind of like it was before. So, and you guys maybe don't know some of this history, but like around 2000, the Passion Movement got huge. Lou Giglio got really big, and like crew movements and college movements everywhere like blew up. But before that, you would go to a weekly meeting and there wouldn't be worship. And so the experience of a weekly meeting was literally like skits, testimonies, speaker, but like no music at all. And so that's what I walked into, right? And it was like probably an awkward skit that was prepared like 20 minutes before the meeting. You know, MCs at that point on campus, we changed out our crew MCs every week. Or not every month, every month. And so every month there would be like a new MC jumping in to MC. So they're not getting like polished at all. They're not figuring out how to be an MC at all because they're just getting thrown into it.
Oh my God.
That sounds
And so it was a pretty awkward experience. And so I went once, and then I didn't go back until some other things happened in my life. But that's kind of my story. So Emma, what was it like the first time you walked into Crew? I mean, and again, like this is my baby, right? So I'm being vulnerable here. Like, oh man, it was probably super awkward too. But I'm just curious, how'd you end up there? What was it like? Well, yeah, tell us the story.
Well, I feel like my first experience was not as like dingy and awkward as yours sounds.
All right.
But,
well, that's something. I guess.
Yeah.
Dingy.
So actually, before I came to college, my youth pastor told me about Crew, and she's like, "Yeah, you should check it out." And I was like, "Yeah, I'll see. We'll see what happens." And so when I first got on campus, like you said, all these other organizations are trying to get you to go to these things, and I saw Crew. I saw the cup and a Coke deal going on. I was like, I'll check it out. At this point, I had some friends that weren't really Christian, so I like was asking them. I was like, "Oh, do you want to go to Crew with me?" And they're all like, "No, I don't really want to go." So then I ended up going by myself. I'm not really sure how I ended up there, but I ended up there.
And this was week one, freshman year.
This is week one, freshman year. Yeah. I think I kind of had the mindset of like, I'm just going to try everything, and if I hate it, I don't have to go back, but try it once and see what happens.
That I would say to those listening to this or watching this, that is like, if there's one thing I want to tell my children when they go to college, it's like, just try everything once. And if you don't like it, if you get weird vibes, it's cool.
100%. You meet so many new people that way.
Yep.
But so I showed up to Crew, and it was in the alumni room, and so that was kind of different. And I showed up there, and there's just like this sea of people, and I was like, okay, I don't know anybody here, and there's just a ton of people. But as soon as I walked up, there's so many people that came up and greeted me. Jamie, I specifically remember, greeted me, and she ended up giving her testimony that night, which was really cool. And I don't know, I feel like Crew was this like really hyped up thing. Like everybody's like, Crew's so amazing, you have to check it out. And it like actually lived up to that experience. Like I remember going there, hearing the testimony from Jamie, and then like worship and the talk. It just seemed to like really hit me at a point where I really needed it that time in my life. And it was just, I don't know, such a thrilling experience. I feel like Lydia can relate to this a little bit, but we come from a really small town. And so sharing your faith and like even being open about it, you get judged very much so. And so it's like actually seeing a room full of college students actually on fire for their faith and like wanting to spread that and show everybody like, hey, I love Jesus, was so weird to me, but also so inspiring and so cool to see. And I don't know, it was a really great experience. I ended up.
Yeah, I mean, just to jump in here is like one of the things people, like for me, from my vantage point over the years, I remember talking to a student who's from a larger community who was a part of like a huge youth group. And I remember like, because usually like our first weekly meeting of the year is going to be our biggest. And it's a little bit of like, as a team leader, you're like, oh man, like, okay, there's a lot of people here. This is exciting. Usually, some years aren't like that. But, and I remember we had a big meeting one night, first meeting of the semester, and this guy comes walking up to me. He's like, I was like, what'd you think? Yeah, he's like a freshman, and he's like, well, yeah, my youth group back home was probably like 600 people, so this is kind of small.
Whoa.
And I was like,
wow.
Wow. Okay, so a lot of what you come in with,
Yeah.
if you're coming from a youth group of 20 people or whatever, like Crew will feel huge.
Yeah.
If you're coming from a youth group of 1,000 kids in like a big metropolitan area, like this is going to feel different too. And so, you kind of have to table that, or at least be aware of how that might feel. Right?
Yeah. And it definitely did feel like a lot of people, but at the same time, it felt like very homey, if that makes sense too.
Yeah.
Like there was a lot of people, but it wasn't intimidating in this aspect.
Very cool. Very cool. Lydia, share us a little bit about your experience.
So over this summer, like before I even came to college, I was like Snapchatting this girl I thought was going to be my roommate. And she's like, yeah, I'm thinking about checking out Crew when I like go to college. I'm like, okay. So I follow their Instagram, and I see like you guys were posting like every week, like all these events you were doing. I'm like, okay, they're like popping off. They sound like a fun group to be in. But that girl didn't end up going to Point. But I remembered Crew from her talking about it. And they did like glow in the dark volleyball my first week. So I'm like, okay, they seem pretty fun. So I went to the first meeting, and I don't even really remember like what it was like going there, because I'm not like super anxious socially. Like, I don't know, big groups don't really scare me. So I didn't really think much about that. But I remember like Emma was saying, Jamie like said her testimony, and she was talking a lot about like athletics and finding a lot of your like validation and like how you do in sports. And I was like, okay, wow, that really resonates with me. And then like she said, me and Emma are from the boonies. Okay. So like nobody, like it's a very spiritually dead area. So like being able to be in a room full of like 200 college students that are just like on fire and like ready to pursue their faith. I was like, it was like completely new territory to me. Like I went to a small church. I was like one of the only kids there. You know, we didn't even have a youth group. So it was like completely new to me. I was so excited, and like people were coming up and like saying hi to me and welcoming me. And I was like, okay, like this is like a good place to be. Yeah.
Was there ever any like insecurities or feelings of like, oh man, I don't know if this is over the top or this is,
Well,
did I, you know?
I think I remember like some people were talking like they were like cracking like inside jokes about like the Bible, like it was stuff, and I'm like, I've never heard that story in the Bible, and I was like kind of insecure because I was like, I was like, okay, these people know a lot more than me, and like I just went to Sunday school, I learned about like the Ark, like Noah's Ark, but they were like talking more in depth, and I'm like, I don't know what they're talking about, and I felt insecure in that way.
Well, and that's like, I mean, and hopefully there'll be people that aren't just incoming freshmen listening to this podcast, but that is such a big deal for like leaders that you realize, especially in the beginning of the year, how much like your inside jokes around freshmen is like so like it can be like really like create a lot of angst and like being outwardly focused as a crew leader, like those first weeks, so crucial that you're thinking about like, what does it mean to include? What does it mean to include? What does it mean to include? Because it can feel like an inside club and that can be pretty unattractive to new freshmen for sure.
Yeah. And I don't think it ever like turned me off, but it was more of just like it kind of was like a sign to me like, oh gosh, I like need to get into my Bible, and like, I'm like, I don't know what this story is. Like I need to read it and like figure out what it is. So
that's pretty powerful though, right? Like that you're around that
like
community.
It was like, okay, wow, I need to like dive deeper into the Bible and figure out what they're talking about. And then it was also like sitting around people with their Bibles out and they're like highlighted and there's like all these words written in there, and I'm like, I open my Bible and it's blank and I'm like trying to shut it. I'm like,
and it's so like, it's such an interesting dynamic, and this is one of the reasons I like college ministry so much, is because you're entering into a place with people where you are, you know, mom and dad aren't going to force you to be at crew on a Thursday night. And one of the hardest things that I struggle with is like, I know parents at times who really want to get their kids involved with crew, and I can like do everything in my power to make it happen. But I can't do it, you know, like I can't. And really it's got to be an individual choice. But the flip side of that, that's really awesome is that, the people that show up on a Thursday night often are really serious about their faith. Like they really do want to grow and have a relationship with Jesus. And so you get to see some of that, which is really powerful.
Yeah.
So that's cool. Caden, how about you? Caden's a freshman. So this was not that long ago.
No, actually.
You were just living the dream of walking in on campus. And I remember sitting down with you probably week 2, 3 in the basement of the cafeteria on campus, hanging out, getting to know you a little bit for the first time. And that was not that long ago. But tell us, like, this is a real experience. Tell us what it was like.
Yeah. Obviously, we talked about there's all these other groups on campus, and everyone's holding their own events. And so me being someone who likes to try things, I went to quite a bunch of stuff. And eventually it came down to going to one of the crew events. And I went to the glow-in-the-dark volleyball. And I remember... like, it was fun, and I basically stayed in the 9 square the entire time.
Okay.
But I remember Joel and Nathan and a couple other of the guys giving me a nickname for the shirt I was wearing. And it was kind of like, these seem like a good group of guys, and so wanted to make an effort to join up with crew. And I had already heard of crew before coming in.
Okay.
And considered doing it, and was kind of new to my faith at this point. And I remember seeing the post that, you could win a free Yeti if you got there early. And I was...
That doesn't happen at every crew across the country. So there are always promotions, and they vary based on location.
Yeah.
But, we did a pretty sweet thing last year.
It was pretty sweet, but...
And that got you off the couch maybe a little bit more, or a little earlier.
Well... So I was running 5 minutes late. So I actually remember running up the stairs in the DUC,
oh my goodness,
going towards the layered room, and Ian Hackett was at the top of the stairs, and he's, "You here for crew?" "Yeah." "Okay, just head up the stairs by the dining hall, and it's in the alumni room." And I walked in and sat in the back and remember sitting through the service, and it was kind of unique, something I had not been used to. And I remember Kyle gave his story, and unironically, we both went to same denomination church from back home, and hit kind of home to me. And so I was like, wow, I should talk to this guy after. He said, come talk to me, and went and had a conversation, and then eventually just started talking to a couple of the other guys. I remember vividly like standing around, like just not saying anything to anyone, kind of just there, but not like making my presence known. And I remember, I think you, Garrett, and John all came up to me and introduced yourselves, and it's kind of a little bit nicer to have some people like, oh, kind of remember these people and remember Joel and Nathan from the game. And so it just kept coming out, and yeah,
it's amazing.
Spiked up from there.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's always, I'm always so mindful as a team leader and as a person who's done crew a lot of like those first interactions. And I am also like, it's so funny because, like you're doing like 50 things at night as a team leader, like you're trying to get like pizza out on the table after crew, and I don't remember what we did, ice cream or whatever, and you're trying, and then somebody sees you from 2 years ago who showed up randomly, and they wanted to tell you all about what they did this summer, and you're just trying to like meet as many freshmen and make everyone feel like they matter, because they do, right? But you're feeling all this like incredible internal angst of like getting to like the people who need like some life support of like structure organizationally to know that you're there. So it's really like, it's a crazy maker. I mean, emotionally, it's a crazy maker, and you trust Jesus with your insufficiencies. But it's really, to me, like even being able to hear these stories is really like, it's valuable, because a lot of people are praying. A lot of people are hoping that your generation of students will, experience God in your life, will know God's word, will be reading God's word, will be doing all the things Crew's trying to do on campus. And there's obviously a lot of headwinds. There's a lot of challenges with it. There's a lot of, insecurities, I guess, that come along as you guys are entering college. Like, how do we help you get engaged? What does that mean? What do you guys feel like can scare people off in the fall from like checking out a crew meeting, getting involved with campus ministry?
I'll say for me, like, I think I'm pretty unique. Like, you guys may have both known people going into it. I didn't know anybody. And so I was like, yeah, why would I go check it out when I don't know anybody there? And just like that first initial step of like, okay, you have to do something on your own. Like, you're so used to like high school having all these people to do things with, and now you're really just stepping out on your own, at least for my experience, and just taking that step and going out and trying new things can be scary for that first time.
Yeah, for sure.
And I never checked out like any other college ministry groups, and so Crew was my only one, and it was really that first interaction and just like stepping out that changed the whole game for me.
Wow.
So
Yeah, that's cool. You guys have thoughts? What could keep people away, or what you've seen keep people away?
I was going to say, for me personally, I never felt like when I jumped into it the first weekly meeting, I just like kept going, because I was like, I don't know what I was like. Freshman year, I was so social, like the beginning. I just wanted to meet everyone. So like Crew to me, I was like, okay, Thursday's coming up, gonna go talk to more people. So like I wasn't in the beginning like really scared off on anything, but I think like putting myself in others' shoes, I think it would just be the idea, like Emma said, of like, I don't know these people, like they're from all wherever in Wisconsin. I've never talked to them in my life, and now I'm like supposed to like get deep and personal with them, like praise God with them, and it's like it can be very uncomfortable, especially if you tend to be like a little bit more anxious socially, and just like trying to figure out your group of people and who you can click with, I think can be pretty scary for some people.
Yeah. I mean, I think about, even like musical worship, which is, usually a part of a lot of Crew ministries, a lot of different campus ministries. But there's a lot of people coming from environments they've never really even sung songs to God, never maybe even been to church. So singing a song to God sounds like a really weird idea. And so even that can be kind of like as cool as it is to walk into like a full band and like lots of energy on a Thursday night, it can also feel like, whoa, this is kind of over the top. This is
weird. That I will say, that was one thing for me, because like growing up in the church I did, it was like, and I love them, but it was all just a bunch of old people like in pews singing old hymns, and it was like you don't really sing loud. You just kind of like mumble the words
Sure.
and like try to get through it. So that was new to me. I was like, whoa, this is like really loud and not music I'm used to singing for church. But it was, I really enjoyed it. So yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's great. How about you, Caden? You got any thoughts? What keeps people away?
Yeah. I think a lot of what Lydia just talked about was a lot of what I've experienced so far, but also just the fact that it is a big commitment. I think that for someone who really wanted to really dive into his faith, it was a little bit easier to make that decision. But people who are maybe on the fence about it or have grown up as a Christian or within a Christian household or knew of Jesus or this, that, the other thing, and are coming to college, they have a lot of other things on their mind, a lot of other things on their plate, and it's really hard to take a step back and really give that time up. And I've seen that with a lot of friends that I've talked to and have just tried to work on like that perspective of like life is a service to God, and the way that we live our lives here can really make an impact on other people. And so I think it's a big commitment in that sense, but I think it's a very healthy commitment as well.
Yeah. I mean, I think that what we call students to in terms of centering their life on Jesus week after week is a pretty culturally, it's a countercultural idea. Like, it's not something that fits into like, the news headlines of what, is attractive to people right now. So because of that, I think at some point, you have to count the cost. You might check out a meeting or two and then realize like, wow, they're actually talking about Jesus being the center of my life. Whoa, that's different than kind of like Jesus is a little piece of my life that I do 15 minutes on at this time of the week or whatever. And so there's a cost. And eventually, like, hopefully, whether it's Cru or any other campus ministry that you're getting involved with, hopefully you're beginning to see that like there is a cost to following Jesus. And that is really what's at the center of our organization on campus and other organizations that are representing Jesus on campus as well. So those are big things. How do you guys feel like your life has changed? Like, if you were sitting down with an incoming freshman and you had 5 or 10 minutes or whatever to just share a few thoughts about like, this is why it's been worth it to me. Like, this is why it's mattered to me. What would you say? How has your life changed as a result of being involved?
Well, I look at myself like before I came into college, like my relationship with my parents was pretty terrible. Like, I had a really bad attitude. I like went from 1 to 10 with my anger, just like that. And then I like found myself with this group of people that like held me accountable for what I said in like a great way, that it was like after they would talk to me like, hey, like, should we talk like that or whatever? It's like, okay, yeah, I'm feeling better about like the way I'm carrying myself, the way I'm interacting with others. And then like just going home and being able to like rebuild that connection with my parents and like being able to like have a relationship with my parents again in a way that's like honoring to them and to God. It was like completely new to me. I just, it was something I was struggling with for like years and years. So like being able to be surrounded by people that helped me grow in that and help me restore a lot of friendships and just the way I talk to people in general too. Like I don't know, I was kind of like stuck up, or I would just say whatever was on my mind, but that wasn't always the right thing to say to people. 'Cause like, you shouldn't, I don't know. It's just, I think the way that you like talk to people and the things you say to them carries a lot of meaning. And so that's something I grew a lot in. And yeah, it really like switched my relationships with friends and back home and family and stuff like that. So
yeah, I mean, what I'm hearing you say is like Cru is helping you grow up as a person and like mature. And I think, maturity is a big thing. We assume it, like it's typically been like as you grow in age, you're growing in maturity. But I think there's a lot of factors in our culture right now that keep us from becoming mature. And like even into your 30s and 40s, you can see people who are still not learning some of the stuff that you have been wrestling with in your time with Cru. And I think a mark of obviously a healthy environment to me is that people are being able to experience, what it says about Jesus, that he appeared in grace and truth, that like we are creating grace and truth environments which provide growth. And so when that happens, it's a special thing. I'm glad it's happening here for you, Lydia. That's awesome.
Yeah. And just like going back home and like being able to like talk to people and they can see that change, and I can like relate that change to God, I feel like is like a ministry in itself, because they're like, wow, like Lydia went to college and she came back and all of a sudden she's like acting completely different in a good way. And it's like, what made you change? And I can like speak that into them. Like I found a group of people that like drew me closer to God and like have helped me build my relationship with him. And it's like, that's been the change. And like that change that they can see, I think like speaks volume to like what God can do in your life and like just how great he is. Yeah. It was great.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing. How about you, Emma? What do you think? What's changed?
Yeah, when I came to college, my relationship with God was pretty much non-existent. Like I would still go to youth group and stuff, but like I did not have a personal relationship with God. My family didn't really end up going to church. So it just wasn't something that was prevalent in my life at all.
Okay, so I just want to stop you right there, because I think like some people who might be listening to this would be shocked to know that a person who would say, I have no relationship with God, would still check out a weekly meeting, like the first weekly meeting of the year. And people, like, this is what I'm trying to tell people right now. Your generation is hungry to know God. There's a lot of students like yourself who would say, I have no, like, for me, back in the day, like, the only person checking out Career on Thursday, the first Thursday of the year, are Christian kids. Or people that think they're Christians. But you're saying, like, I came in, I knew I didn't know, but I wanted it, and you were hungry. And I can't reiterate that enough. It feels probably very normal to you that that's your story. There's a lot of people listening to this that are like, wait, that's what's happening right now? That's what's happening. So it's exciting. It's awesome. Yeah. It's really special. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, you're good. And I think that's why it was a little scary for me, because I was like, I know God, and I think like in the back of my head, I was like, I need to dive further into this, but I was like, that's never been a part of my life. So I was like, I don't know how to go about this. All these people around me know about it, like going to Crew. I'm like, all these people are going to know God, know him on a personal level. And I'm like, I'm just starting. Like, I don't even know if this is something I really want to pursue in my life. But it was really coming to Crew where I saw these people on fire for God, and they showed me how to live out my life live out my faith life on my own. It wasn't something my parents forced me to do. And I joined Bible study and discipleship, and it really just showed me how to create that personal relationship with God. And it was really outside of Crew. Like, yeah, I did Bible study, which helped me grow so much with my faith. But it was really, they gave me the skills to do that on my own, which was really huge. Like, if I look back on my life as freshman year, like, I don't even recognize that person. It's night and day different. And like, it's such a testimony to God and to the ministry that Crew is doing on campus and just the people that I was surrounded with at that time.
And the other thing I want to say is, if you're listening to this and you are an incoming freshman who has no clue who God is, but you're hungry to know God, like, Crew exists for you. Like, our entire mission is really about, like, how do we serve students like that to help them know God? And obviously, if you're a Christian and you're coming in and you already know God, we love you and we definitely want you involved with Crew. But, we have had it on kind of our radar since the beginning of the organization to try to help students who don't know God encounter God. And I was a person who considered themselves a Christian when I walked onto campus. I still had just as much growth as you guys experienced. I still needed to go through as a student. But I already kind of put myself in that category. But if you don't put yourself in that category and you're listening to this, we want you to know, like, please, 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 please check out what we're doing. We want everything about Crew to be a place where you can be growing and actually start to come to concrete ideas about who God is, how much he loves you, what he wants for your life, and to have a community to process that. So you guys will probably find this funny, but I love how you're talking about relationships. And just actually my Crew friends were texting each other this week. And I'll try to splice this image in, but somebody had their birthday and somebody else responded, "Happy birthday to the GOAT of food fights." And this was an actual picture. I will splice this in. I'll throw this into the video format of this, but this is an actual picture of two of my roommates having a food fight in college. Oh, goodness. And that is a full gallon of milk being dumped onto my roommate Brandon's head.
Oh my God.
My.
And yeah, we got to know each other through Crew. So that can happen too. I mean, a lot of things can happen.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, the relationship piece of it though is so big. I mean, it's just, college is such a coming of age time in life. And, there's just, it's scary. The real world stuff is hitting you really hard for the first time. And having a team of people, like, and this is just something, that I would tell people over and over again about why, an organization like Crew matters to you in college, is like having people you can try to lock arms with to help you get through it is so big. I know as Crew staff, we tried to like be available to you. We're not like fully sufficient, but having a Crew movement, a Crew ministry of other student leaders to walk alongside of, the names some of you guys have rattled off here of significant people who have, contributed to making your time at Crew significant, like just indicates how many people it takes to make it good. And yet when it is happening at its best, it's so beautiful. And I think for me as a Crew leader, like I just want more and more students to be experiencing it. Most importantly, to be experiencing an understanding of who God is, and an understanding of growing in their faith. So yeah, before we sign off, are there any other final comments you want to throw out there? Anything else you've been thinking about?
I mean, I guess I would just say if you're a freshman coming in and you just don't know if you want to do it or not, just do it. And if you are like still on the fence about it, like you're most likely going to like meet somebody older who can like help you through that walk and like help you like debate like maybe this is right for me, maybe it's not, but like you won't know unless you try it. So like try it and like see where it takes you, because I'm almost certain it's going to take you somewhere great. It took all of us somewhere great, and it's still growing us. And like, it's just try it.
Yeah, for sure.
That's good. I would say it's still growing me. So, sometimes people are like, I'll hear from upperclassmen, like, I think I've kind of heard everything, Crew has to offer. I think I'm ready for something new. And to me, I'm like, I don't know, man, because I've been doing it for 25 years now. And I still feel like as generations change, as new problems emerge, I'm always growing, always learning more about what it means to depend on my faith in this season of life with this group of students. So there's always more, I feel like, to learn in college ministry. The other thing I'd say, maybe you guys can reiterate this or whatever, but I think it might take a few weeks. It might take, and we're going to talk more. We're going to have an episode on fall retreat, but it might take a retreat. It might take a missions trip with other students before you really, like you guys were talking before we started the podcast about what happened when you guys went to Australia together. And it might take some of those types of experiences to grow deeper with people. And don't limit yourself in that. Like don't go, I went once and I didn't meet anyone. Like give it a few weeks, maybe the Crew guy or the Crew woman was, got flagged down by an emergency because they ran out of pizza that night. So they weren't as available that night, but maybe in a couple of weeks you'll meet them and be able to get to know them better. You don't know what's happening, but give it a little more time than just 1 week and see what God might do with it. Because I think over time things do happen, but it's not always instant. So.
Yeah. I feel like I've lived that life of like, I've been in the world and I've been full in for God, and I can truly say I've never been more thankful to like fully give my life to God. And it's truly going into Crew, and it like you said, it didn't happen instantly, but like just keep showing up. Even if you're just kind of questioning it, keep showing up, because you'll never regret it.
That's good.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you guys so much for being on the first podcast.
Yeah.
This was